Hi guys! Okay, today our objective is we are going to learn how to compare fractions using half as a benchmark. So you all know what one half is. One half is when the numerator, the top number, is exactly half of the denominator or the bottom number. So for example, 2/4 would be a half. Let me show you. So we have 2/4. This is equal to a half. The numerator is half of the denominator. We also have 3/6. 3 is half of 6. We have 5/10. 5 is half of 10. We have 6/12. 6 is half of 12. We have 7/14. 7 is half of 14. Okay? We can use knowing what we know about fractions being a half to compare fractions. Let's practice. Okay, so if we have 2/3 and we have 3/6, let's look at these fractions on their own and then we'll decide which one's bigger, smaller, or equal to. So we have 2/3. Let's think here. Is 2/3 greater than 1/2? Less than 1/2 or equal to 1/2? We have to look at the denominator first, okay? Now the denominator is an odd number, so we aren't going to be able to tell very easily what its half is. But here's what we can do. 1 more than 3 is 4. Half of 4 is 2. 1 less than 3 is 2. Half of 2 is 1. So if the numerator is in between a 1 and a 2, but it can't be 1 and 2, then it is going to be equal to a half. But if the 2 is less than 1, it's going to be less than a half. If the 2 is a 2 or more than 2, it's going to be greater than a half. In this case, it's a 2, so it's going to be more than a half. 3/6. 3 is half of 6, so it's equal to a half. So we know since this is greater than a half, this is equal to a half, we know 2/3 is greater than. Let's try another one. This time we have 8/9 and we have 3/5. Okay, let's look at these numbers by themselves and then we'll compare them. We have 8/9. Now this one we can look at a couple different ways. 9/9 make one whole. If you have a piece that's one away from one whole, it's going to be more than it's going to be more than a half. It's going to be very close to a whole. But let's just double check that. So 9, it's odd. We can't tell easily what is half of 9, but we can see what it would be in between. So 1 more than 9 is 10. Half of 10 is 5. 1 less than 9 is 8. Half of 8 is 4. So if the 8 is more than 5, it's going to be more than a half. If the 8 is less than 4, it's going to be less than a half. The 8 is more than 5, so 8/9 is going to be more than a half. Okay, 3/5. Same thing. It's odd. It's going to be hard. So let's see what we can do here. 1 more than 5 is 6. Half of 6 is 3. 1 less than 5 is 4. Half of 4 is 2. If this 3 is a 2 or less, it's going to be less than. If this 3 is 3 or more, it's going to be more than. Okay, so this 3 is more, so it's going to be more than a half. So in this case, they're both more than a half. So we can't tell easily. But so what we can do here is do our new strategy. We can cross multiply. 5 times 8 is 40, and 3 times 9 is 27. Since 40 is the bigger number, 8/9 is actually bigger. So 2 strategies there. Let's practice one more. We have 2/4 and we have 6/7. All right, 2/4. Right away, we can see half of 4 is 2, so this is equal to 1/2. Now we have 6/7. Sevenths is odd. It's going to be hard to tell what is half of 7. So here's what we have to do. 1 more than 7 is 8. Half of 8 is 4. 1 less than 7 is 6. Half of 6 is 3. So if the 6 is a 3 or less, it's going to be less than a half. If the 6 is a 4 or more, it's going to be more than a half. Well, 6 is more than 4, so it's more than a half. So 6/7 is more than a half. This is a half. 2/4 is less than 6/7. Now it's your turn. I want you to practice with 2/5 and 5/7. Pause the video and see if you can figure out which one's bigger, and then resume the video and I'll go over it with you. Okay, 2/5. It's an odd number, it's going to be hard. So here's what we have to do. 1 more than 5 is 6. Half of 6 is 3. 1 less than 5 is 4. Half of 4 is 2. If the 2 is a 2 or less, it's going to be less than a whole. If it's a 3 or more, it's going to be more than a whole, because in between the 2 and the 3 is going to be half of 5. 2 is less, so this is less than a whole. Now let's look at 5/7. It's an odd number. So 1 more than 7 is 8. Half of 8 is 4. 7, we have 1 less than 7 is 6. Half of 6 is 3. If the 5 is a 3 or less, it's going to be less than a whole. If the 5 is a 4 or more, it's going to be more than a whole. So we have 5 is more than 4. So this is more than a whole. So we have this is less than a whole. This is more than a whole. 5/7 is bigger. Let's practice one more. We have 5/10 and 11/13. Pause the video, work this out, and then start it again to check your answer. Okay, 5/10. Look at the denominator. Half of 10 is 5, so this is equal to a whole. Then we have 11/13. This is odd. So we have to do 1 more than 13 is 14. Half of 14 is 7. 1 less is 12. Half of 12 is 6. If 11 is 6 or less than, it's going to be less than a half. If 11 is 7 or more, it's going to be more than a half. 11 is more than 7, so this is going to be more than a half. This is equal to a half. This is more than a half. 11/13 is greater than 5/10. Nice work.